Good evening and welcome to Hot Topics from the Soul. I'm your host, Dr. Valerie Parker-Hagan, and I'm so delighted to be here with you this Tuesday. Last week I was struggling, so I'm so glad I'm back with you. I have my co-host.
And great evening to each and every one. And Dr. Val, you sound better and you sound strengthened. And I know that we're ready to continue this journey as we always do, hoping to empower lives and shape destinies and do all those things that make a greater good in the world that we live in.
Yes, so much is going on. So much has happened from day to day, hour to hour, minute to minute. There's so many things. We as individuals find ourselves in a crisis. So this show is so important for me tonight. How to achieve mental wellness in this season we're living in.
You're absolutely right. Dr. Val, you talk about things happening every day, every hour, every minute. And what we're talking about is a recipe for being overwhelmed. People are overwhelmed when we have several different events to happen back to back, right behind each other, so close together that we really don't have any breathing space. And as a result, we feel overwhelmed. We feel that we can hardly breathe. We feel as if we can never catch our footing because of those type of things are not necessarily reserved to any particular group. So it doesn't matter whether you're rich, poor, whether you're on, in the upper echelon or the lower echelon. The bottom line, mental and emotional wellness is critical. And it doesn't mean that you know how to achieve it simply because you have money or simply because the fact that you're born in a certain tax bracket. Reality, we have to learn how to seek it. And one of the things that we're finding in this day and time, because I think there's a greater awareness of mental illness and mental issues now in light of everything that we've gone through with the pandemic, everything from people feeling isolated, the rise of anxiety and depression, the rise of so many things. So when people start looking for help, they are now recognizing that help must come even from unconventional sources. We have to reinvent ourselves. And there are times that what we recognize is that it's not always going to be the job of the psychiatrist or the psychologist or even the licensed mental health counselor, although they're good to have. It is going to take some reaching people, which meaning that we have to meet people where they are, not trying to overpower them with a bunch of clinical 5-syllable words, but meet them where they are to be able to deal with the things that have impacted their lives. And, when I say that, Dr. Val, every time I think of that, I go back to, I believe, your second book. You can correct me when you wrote about the fact, unveiling secrets of the heart, forgiving your past to free your future. And, and that book has such a powerful meaning because the fact, in order to go forward, we have to deal with what's behind us. And that's what is so important about where we are tonight. And we're grateful because we have a guest tonight that so much of what they've done has been birthed from experience, but a lot of it has been birthed inside of the pandemic. In other words, not sitting there saying, oh, it's me, what's happening to us, but rather saying we have to find a way to find healing, to find emotional wellness, to find a way to not only hold each other accountable, but the great part I love about it is this, is really knowing how to cover each other. So I'm excited about tonight's show as we continue on with our series of Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yeah.
I think it's very critical.
It is very critical, Dr. J. And, mentally, individuals are going through circumstances every single day, and it is not isolated to your economical status, where you work, people you know, what you look like. It can happen at any time to individuals. My sister just lost her son, and I cannot comprehend what that is like and how she's pulling everything within her together just to hold on to make each day. I just can't even imagine it. So situations can cause you to have a mental break, and it does not mean that you are crazy. Yes, sometimes you do snap. It causes people to snap. That's why they say people have nervous breakdowns, etc. But it is not fatal.
Right. And I'm so glad you brought that up because it kind of leads us into even our guest tonight. Even during the pandemic, the rise of suicide, the rise of attempted suicide, the rise of homicide, the rise of abuse, all of those things accelerated. But one of the things people might not know is that even among pastors went through great depression during this time
Yes,
of the
yes.
pandemic. Many attempted suicide. Many of them felt an enormous loss because of the fact they were no longer able to do things like they always have. So regardless of whether or not they had a word from the Lord, many of them felt, if you would, trapped and isolated. They felt that they had been cut away and cut off from their congregation. And during this time, we discovered new methods. Although Zoom existed before the pandemic, it became, if you would, a household name during the pandemic. Although all these platforms became alive during that time, it is that reason that even inside of our special guest tonight, when they founded their organization, Shyne Production, it was specifically meant to be for faith-based organizations and small organizations to help them with their marketing and to help them get that word out, to help them continue to give life, if you would, to others, and by making sure that they had the best in marketing material, by making sure that they had a way to reach their
Well,
congregants.
I am so glad that we're bringing
And so
Shyne.
tonight, that I know that we're froze, we're
Yes.
very, very privileged to have tonight with us Carla Yvette Saunders, who is the founder of Shyne Productions. And it was established once again to help faith-based organizations shine a light on their platform and marketing materials to help them to do just what they were called to do inside of that. But it didn't stop there. Carla has a previous background where she was the owner of DBC, designed by Carla, and she was the author of a book which really speaks to what you just got through saying. The author of Ultimate Faith After 12 Months of Sorrow. And hopefully we'll touch on that tonight, where she herself went through that overwhelming period where she lost loved one after loved one after loved one after loved one right behind each other with no breathing space in between. And what do you do when you're overwhelmed? What do
Wow.
you do when you're drowning? And one of the things that have attracted me to her message is that she never stopped. It's like she caught her breath long enough to allow birthing to happen. And the birthing ended up with her not only doing that, but she then began to find what she called the life speaker's experience, where she understood that the key was to speak life and not death. So she began to establish platforms in which she had life speakers experience, and she would have different speakers from different disciplinaries that would speak life, whether they're from the mental health perspective, or whether they was from the spiritual faith-based world, or whether they were coming from people who had come out of things like incarceration. And then if that wasn't enough, and I just wonder the fact, does God have to allow things to happen to really get the best out of us? Because she didn't stop that. There she went on to also birth inside of this whole thing a movement called My Sister's Keeper. And I will tell you, Dr. Val, I had an opportunity to sneak in and peek in on one of their last conferences they had. And when I tell you, it was mind-blowing. It was incredible. I was jealous as a man. Because I saw the sisters getting free. I saw the sisters being transparent. I saw the sisters being healed. And the thing that was so amazing, it wasn't total, it wasn't total just spiritual, but it was practical things. It was transparency. It was sisters becoming vulnerable enough to each other to say, look here, I got some garbage. I got some luggage. I got some baggage. There's some stuff that's got me bitter. There's some things that is holding me back. And then I saw them, and I was peeking because I was watching on live stream. You understand? And I saw people get breakthroughs. And what blessed me the most was not only did they get breakthroughs, but Dr. Val, she had a symbolic gesture of a scarf. Oh, man. And this blew me away because it was biblical. A scarf that they placed around each other as a symbol of covering. I got you, my sister. I don't think I ever seen us as men do anything like that. So, it was beautiful. So tonight I want to welcome and introduce the psalm and present to others none other than Carla Saunders. We're so glad to have you. Good evening, Carla.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. That was a lot.
Well, how do you feel when you hear all that about yourself? Because all that is what you're doing in your organization, what you're doing. you didn't stop there. I mean, you're also the co-founder of Sisters of Faith, and so there's a lot of things that you're doing that literally has a way of reaching people, not just from a faith perspective, but from a practical perspective as well. So what do you say to all of this as this is being birthed and this was being birthed out of you?
I just thought, just Carla. I'm just Carla. I am a woman who loves God first, but I am a woman who understands that it takes a village. It takes a group of people supporting one another. No one can do it on their own. I am connected to you. You're connected to another person, and that therefore we need each other. We can't survive just being by ourselves. We must have a connection. We must have what I call a group, a sisterhood, a familyhood. Whether it's your actual sister or your actual family, that's one thing. But to have someone outside that can love on you, that can help build you, help nurture you, in a place where you feel maybe alone, you may feel isolated. Well, God has so much for us, and I am very grateful that He chose me. He considered me to be a person that can actually speak and encourage someone else.
It's amazing. In your humility, you tend to say, just Carla, and which is going to be the name of one of your upcoming book will be JC Just Carla, and you say that with humility, but there's a lot behind the Just Carla. It is the experiences that I kind of just skimmed over a few minutes ago. It is the experience of knowing what loss is. It's the experience of going through things. And I have to ask you the question because many people that might be listening now, may be listening on a delayed broadcast of someone sharing it with them, might not feel the same way. In other words, when they went through their calamities, when they went through their challenges, when they went through their time of loss, many of them drowned in their own sorrows. Many of them might have become bitter. Many of them might have felt as if life had given them a bad blow. How do you explain what has happened to you? What is it that caused your response to what you've gone through? And I want you to kind of, if you would, emphasize some of those things. What is it that caused your response to be what it is? I mean, you wrote a book after 12 months of sorrow, and you talked about what you dealt with inside of that. What is it that caused you to come out in the manner that you did?
I would say through all of that, I'm just going to give a little brief. I lost 5 family members in 9 months. Yes, it was back to back. In that back to back, it took some quiet time, some time to reflect on what it is that's happening around me. To lose one family member is one thing, but to lose multiple is another. I must say, my faith. I can't walk away from my faith, trusting God. My faith in trusting that God, this can't just be it. This just can't be. I mean, like my mom, for instance, I lost my mom. God, you must have a reason. And then it was, from my mother, then my mother-in-law, God, you must have a reason. And then from that to my husband, God, you must have a reason. And I must say, I sat and I was angry. People think that because you go through and like you have a moment, I was angry. I will say that I sat, and angry at God because I just thought, God, you for sure you're not going to take another. But I must say it was the people that God allowed me to have in my life. I must say it was my sisterhood. I must say the same sisters that I have built, I am my sister's keeper with, are the same sisters that held me down. That is my sister Tana, and that is my sister Latoya. They had my back. And not only did they have my back, but their families had my back. And in all of that, it's about connections. It's about where can you get help? Who are you connected to? And not just who are you connected to, where is your prayer life? Like, I have a prayer life and not everybody has that. And that doesn't mean that they're forgotten. It just means that if we see someone going through, we need to take the steps to reach out to them. We have to be the ones to say, hey, I see what you're going through, and you don't have to be so blunt, but just a subtle movement. It's a smile, a hug, just going by, seeing someone that's in need, giving them encouragement, even bringing them something to eat. And sometimes you don't even have to say anything, just your presence. Not a present, but your presence makes a difference. And your presence in the lives of those that are hurting. I was very overwhelmed a little bit last night because certain things have happened around me that I didn't even know was happening to people in these past few days. And all I could do is just pray for them. And all I can do is just say, give them strength, God. Give them a strength that surpasses all understanding. Something that, I can't explain, but only God can.
You said something I think that is so critical, and I appreciate your transparency. And I think that people, especially people that are believers, they find it almost to be blasphemous when someone say, I was angry with God. And guess what? That is a natural emotion. You can be angry with God and angry at God inside of it, because the sense of disappointment or the sense of betrayal, the sense of loss. Even Jesus said to his Father, why have thou forsaken me? Right?
Yes,
in those times. But I'm looking at the sequence of your loss, losing your mother and then losing your mother-in-law. So you lost two very important matriarchs in your life.
Yes.
So almost like bookends. So you lose those two individuals. So especially I say to women, not that mother's not important to men, us as men, because my mom was my backbone. She was my solid foundation in so many things. But I know to women, to lose your bookends, your mother and your mother-in-law so close together, it can leave a sense of feeling lost, abandoned, my support system. I don't have that any longer. And yet and still, you went through that, and then to lose your husband very shortly thereafter. And so it's like when it rains, it pours. And so your period of being angry with God is justified. But you said something that I think is so critical and crucial in whether it's a loss, whether it's a loss of life or death of a loved one, or whether it's a loss of position, a loss of wealth, a loss of whatever. It is so important to have connection.
Oh, yes.
People that you're connected to, people that that genuinely cares about you, and who put their actions where their words are. And you mentioned that, how critically important that is, because of the fact when we isolate ourselves, there's a danger. When we totally isolate ourselves from everyone, what would you say the danger of that is?
I would say when you isolate yourself, it's just like, if you have nothing around you, nothing to think about but your thoughts. And we have the mind battle. And it's one of the messages that my sister Latoya and I did on Let Us Break Bread. The mind battle. We battle in our minds with different things. We may think to do one thing, but it's always this thing on the back end that's saying, no, don't do that, or yes, do that. And it may be something that's contrary to what you know it is right. So it's important that you do get around other people, or that other people come around you, because being by yourself, an isolated mind, is a devil's playground. I promise you, you cannot sit by yourself and think you can just get through this. I have not accomplished anything without someone next to me, without someone ahead of me, without someone pushing me. It is important to always, walk in unity. And I say walk in unity. It doesn't have to be someone that you actually have been family with, but it can be someone on the outside that sees you, that knows you. And it's not a bad thing to have counseling, because I've had counseling before. I'm not going to say that. And I know sometimes it's frowned upon because you're a Black person. You should, I can handle on counseling. That narrative have changed. We need counseling.
Absolutely.
We need opportunity to talk to someone that, does not know the fullness of everything, because sometimes that becomes a judgmental thing, but someone that can actually have a view in to your situation.
Absolutely.
They don't know anything about what you've gone through, but they can actually see from a different perspective for you. And that's important. You also said something else about the leaders and how a lot of them were going through. And that's, one of the things that God put on my heart, to pray for the leaders. I will tell you, during the pandemic, that was one of my main things. Pray for the leaders, because we don't know. They're dealing with so many different things, so many different, their families, their congregation, and their own minds. And so that was important to me to do, and just to follow through with that. But as I saw this happening, God put forth this platform for me to work on, to help and encourage and build, to be another form of resource for them, to actually build a nice platform where people can come and they can actually see previous messages. They can actually sow into that congregation or that affiliation. Whatever it is, it was important for me to actually have something put together nice for them, any way, shape, and form. And I do marketing all the time for them. Why? Because it is important that we help continue to build and draw people in and not push them away.
That is so important, because so often people think that maybe the only help for people who may be going through mental health crisis or mental health issues is medication or some far thing. And sometimes help is in the form of being listened to. The scripture says there is safety in a multitude of counsel. So counsel is important. Other times there's help when you just lighten the load off of someone. It's interesting. There's a scripture that says when the enemy comes in like a flood, the Spirit of the Lord lifts up a standard against it. Now, the key there is lifts up, meaning that it lifts it up off of a person. It lessens the weight upon them. We're encouraged to lay aside every weight and every sin that so easily beset us. We're encouraged to cast our cares on him because he cares. Everything that you hear about it always talk about something leaving you, leaving you. And so when we have people that stand with us, when we understand the fact that it's important to be surrounded by not only prayer from spiritually, but surrounded by people who has our back. One of the things that LaToya said, I was reading her comment, she said, when you isolate yourself, you become trapped.
Yep.
And you do. And that's a battle of the mind. You don't allow nothing to come in. And one of the things that our dear friend, and I'd like to hear Dr. Val quote him, he talks about the fact, she often says that the fact that you can't see the picture when you're in the frame. And so you have to be able to have intervention to come from outside. And I say to people, it doesn't matter what your status is. I need people to understand that. I don't care how many Grammys you won. I don't care how many churches you pastor. I don't care how many degrees on your wall. I don't care. None of that means anything when you are dealing with crisis happening, when you're dealing with depression, when you're dealing with anxiety, when you're having psychotic events and things happen in your life. There is time that you need someone to reach out to you beyond your title. As a matter of fact, I like saying you got to be willing to put all that aside, lay that aside, be willing to humble yourself. We're told that if we humble ourselves before the mighty hand of God, that he will exalt us in due season. The time of humility.
Yes.
In the time where we are willing to be transparent.
Yes.
In the time that we're willing to be vulnerable. In the time when we're willing to say, Lord, it's me, oh Lord. Yeah, the bishop, the apostle, the arch boo-boo, whoever you call yourself, it is me that's standing in the need of prayer, or it is me that need counsel. It is me that need help. Reaching out for help is not a sign of weakness. Rather, it's a sign of strength.
Yes.
It's a sign that I recognize that I can't do this on my own. And that leads me so much to what you all have done with this whole platform with My Sister's Keeper.
Yeah.
I just think that that's been powerful. By design, you try to make sure that the room is not filled with more than 35 or 40 women at a time. And is that because of the fact you want them to still experience the intimacy and yet it's still the connection of sisterhood?
I must say, I that was the main thing. I really wanted them to feel special. Sometimes we're so busy that we don't even understand that we need, to be covered. We need love. As a mother, I'm a single mom. I have 3 kids. No, they're not babies, but I am so busy sometimes that I don't take time for me. And that is something that, most of my friends will say, she's gone, she's busy, she's busy. But it's so important to take time. Take time for you. Take time. So this was my opportunity to pour into some sisters, some ladies that maybe need a break, maybe need a breakthrough, not just a break, but a breakthrough.
Absolutely.
I will say that it was my delight. I prayed over that thing and I said, God, I really am thankful that you entrusted me with this. My Sister's Keeper. My Sister's Keeper is something that I dreamt about. And then not only did I dream about it, God showed me different ways in order for it to manifest. And to see the ladies come in was powerful. But to see them as they were going out was even more powerful. They came in one way and went out another. And I promise you, every woman was touched. I promise you, every woman was touched in some way, shape, or form. I must say, every woman walked in without having this box. It was a box that was created for them. In their box was a special something for them, but not just for them. There was something in there special for them to give to another sister. It is important to teach, not only to receive, but to give. I teach my kids that all the time, but for the sisters to pray over. And one of the things Dr. Thicklin was speaking of, and he was talking about this scarf right here. These scarves that we have are special because God gave me that. And for My Sister's Keeper, it was important that we prayed over the scarves and we prayed for the families of our sister. We prayed for their jobs, their finances, whatever it is that they may need. And we prayed a prayer over, and each woman prayed. But then they just didn't just pray over the scarf. They took the scarf and covered the sister next to them with prayer, with a scarf that was prayed over, an unselfish prayer. And once we learned to do that, so that was important that God gave me one day when I was writing, and I said, God, how do I make this, for the next sister, to let her know that she is not alone? And it was the scarf that he showed me. And as it has caught on, and it is getting so big, and God is doing so many things, but it's not just about the spiritual side, because I don't want to solely leave people out that are not on this level, but someone that may just need someone to hug them, someone to give them a smile, someone to say good morning, someone to say, hey, it's going to be all right, someone to say you're not alone, that particular thing. And we had some amazing speakers that day, but it's not just that. In our life speaker experience, that was another event that was just powerful, and it's caught on, and people ask me about the life speaker. What is that we should not kill each other with our words, but to speak life, to give them hope, to give them reassurance that everything is going to be all right. It's so important in this time where there are so many people, just like you said, that are committing suicide. There are so many people that feel left behind. There are some people that lost their jobs, and it plays with your mental health, grief. One of the things I met, and I'm going to say her name, it was Tierney Woods. And when I met her maybe about 5 years ago. And she is a mental health specialist. And I went to her mental health conference. And I was just going as a friend, as a favor to sit in. But then she asked me to speak. And it was the anniversary of the death of my husband. When I tell you, it was powerful because I saw a room full of people that had lost. And she spoke about grief, not just being to death, but grieving loss of relationship, loss of job, loss of finances, whatever the loss was. And it was so powerful when she spoke that it drew me to understand my morning to morning. And when I say,
Emphasize that again. Morning to morning. Help us out with that.
So from morning to morning, there's the morning where you're mourning the loss of something. You're mourning the loss of a job. You're mourning the loss of a relationship. You're mourning the loss of finances. Whatever you're mourning, whatever it is that has caused you grief. But then see your mourning. And I say morning to morning. You're going from being in a mourning state of grief to it's joy in the morning. In the morning time, there's joy. And that's how I live. It's from morning to morning. I will not sit in isolation. I will not give up, and not having a no lose mentality. I used to say, never let them see you sweat. I kind of changed that because that kind of hides the part that
The
people
transparency.
see. You know, yes, I'm vulnerable. Yes, I'm going through. And yes, I need help. How do I explain my morning to morning? One day at a time. One day at a time. And then not just one day at one moment, 1 second. We can't do everything in one sitting. It takes time. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of being honest with ourselves, learning to forgive ourselves for the things that we've done or not done, learning to be more understanding of, okay, yes, I did that, but I'm not going to hold myself captive to my past. I'm not going to hold myself captive to the things that I may have done or didn't do that wasn't right. You know, God is, you know, I am a faith believer, and I promise you, I the life speaker. I am my sister's keeper, and let us break bread. All are things that were birthed during the pandemic. These are things that God had put on my heart to do. And I almost didn't do some of it. I'm going to be honest, because I was like, I'm just Carla. Just Carla has to sometimes get out of her own way. I'm not a titled person. And a lot of times people will see that I shy away from them calling me something, because I am just a simple person who just want to see people do right. I want to see people have some of the things I have. When I tell you, and I'm going to go back to my husband, Barry Glenn Saunders was a godsend. He was sent from God. And I'm going to tell you, he was sent from God. And the one thing that he used to say to me all the time, you know, I say, why me? And he said, for the potential of the woman that you're destined to be. He will always say that, always say the same. And I was like, but you don't like my hair, you don't like what I have. And I had to get understanding as to, he saw more in me than I saw in myself.
Wow.
It was not until, and this is during the time I was grieving, I'm telling you, TD Jakes did a message, and it was on my DVR, and it was March the 18th, which was the anniversary of that's when my husband passed. And I never looked at it. I happened to be in the room, mad at God. And I said, I'm just going to push the button. When I pushed the button, and TD Jakes said, for the potential of woman you're destined to be, the potential of the person you're destined to be. That was the message. And that was God reaffirming this is not over.
Yes.
And once we learn that, we'll learn that God has so much more. If you're still here, there's a purpose. There's a purpose for your living. There's a purpose. God has something for you to do. And sometimes it will make you very uncomfortable. I am very uncomfortable being spotlight. I am a back seat person. I am going to get in there, do everything you need. And they'll say, hey, how did this get done? You don't have to give me no recognition. I'm not looking for it. God will give it to me. I just want to do what is right. I just want to make sure people understand there is help, there is need for someone. You know, Dr. Thicklin, you, Oz Newble, Dr. Val, even meeting you, this is an opportunity that I don't take lightly, because it's an opportunity to share with people. We need each other.
Yes.
I can't do it alone. I can't do it. I have my kids. If it wasn't for people like Tana, Latoya, Dr. Thicklin, you know, my ex-husband, all of them coming together to make sure if I needed something, they were there. And that's what we need to understand. It's a community thing.
Yes.
It's not a self thing. And if we're selfish and we hold on to the thing that God actually has given us to bless someone else, we're doing a disservice. We're doing a disservice. You know, and go ahead.
You said something, and Dr. Val, I definitely want you to jump in, because you hear when you say morning to morning.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you're going from the MOU, meaning you, morning, RNING, to MORNING, morning.
Yes.
You're going from a place where you are consumed inside of hurt, inside of reflection, inside of those things, but you're arriving at a destination of morning. When you say joy cometh in the morning, a new day, a new arrival inside of that. And if I heard you right, you said that doesn't happen totally by yourself.
No.
You have to have that support system.
Yes.
Those people that will speak life, if you would. So all of this connects then. Those that will speak life into you, those that will allow you to know that it is a new day, that you can get up off the mat and continue to move forward. Now, the other thing that you said that is so important is that you talked about, I call the blessedness of recognizing the fact that we are inextricably tied. We've got something that even our experience is something that someone else is going to benefit from.
Oh, yes. Oh,
and
yes.
so when we see people that are ashamed of what they've gone through, shame of their loss, their hurt, shame of their failures, shame of all those things, their shame is literally robbing someone else of their experience that they've come through.
Oh, yes. I am going to tell you, I am not, I always say that I am perfectly flawed. I have flaws. I have done some things I'm not proud of. I have come a long way. And I say I come along. No, I haven't done no crazy, weird things, but I still am not perfect. I know there are things that are not right in God's eyes. I may have not said something, not have spoken to someone. I may have passed somebody that, you know, made me so mad I wouldn't even speak to them. But God said, you're going to hold on to that. No. So I'm saying this in a sense of, if you do not understand that your life means something, then you're really missing the point. You're really missing the point. If it wasn't for, I'm going to use Tana. And I gave this example at my sister's keeper. When she is the person that came with me to pick me up from the hospital when my husband passed. And she is the person that walked with me into the funeral. She is the person that stayed at my house. She is the person that stayed with me most of the time. She came to my house and she was laying in the bed. And I was talking and she said something. And I said, are you asleep? And she was like, no. And she was asleep. And she was like, I'm going to keep you, I'm going to keep up with you. But then years later, we were talking about something and she broke down. And I was like, are you okay? And the reason why she broke down is because she never grieved my husband. He was a
Hmm.
good friend of hers. She kept it in to keep me
Wow.
uplifted. And that's what I'm saying, a sisterhood that will always have your back, always keep you, always, see that, the greater good and being the blessing to you. It's not always, it's a selflessness. I promise you, when we learn to be selfless, God will give us more. God will give us more than we can even imagine. And it's not always in finances. I promise you, I am rich in love. I am not rich in finances, but I'm rich in love. I'm rich with friends. I'm rich with people that definitely care about me. And I can't ask for a better group, a better circle. And God has actually built, you know, I would say a strong bond with us. And no matter what, they're my family. I'm excited because I see them growing. I see them moving forward. And so I'm the one that's in the background cheering everybody on. Why? Because if they growing and they're moving, so am I. I am right there behind them. And I just know God has so much for us to do. Ultimate faith, it wasn't that I had ultimate faith at that moment. It is the progress of going to get faith, better faith. My faith isn't little. My faith has grown. I have lost a lot, but I gained faith. I gained, a way of living is without a doubt. I trust God. Without a doubt. I promise you, I trust God. Even when it looked crazy, I trust him. And I'd be like, God, I'm just tired. He's like, I got it. Hey, I got it. And it's so important. I can't tell you all the things I'm doing is because God has kept me. It's not because Carla has done it on her own. It's not that I have been this amazing person that, can do 1,001 things. I don't have a degree. Nope. I've worked several different jobs, and every job I walk in, I love it. God allowed me to grow in that job, but he never let me stay comfortable. He'll let me know when it's time for me to move to the next level. And I am grateful because I never forget I worked for this company, and when I was leaving and they were doing layoffs, and I was exhausted, and I was like, okay. And I went downstairs and handed them all my stuff, and they were laying off so many people. And one of the girls was like, you're so, I said, it was my time. And she was like, it was your time. You're not mad. I said, it was my time. My time was up. There is something else has God for me to do. And I was just so, I was elated. They don't understand. I didn't have a lot of money, but I had a plan, and my plan
Mhm.
was, I'm going to keep it moving. And when I tell you, people will watch out. If you see me silent, God is working.
Well,
God,
I can tell you one thing, that God knew he can trust you with his message. And that's why he's fortified you with the strength to do what you're doing now. And I applaud the work you're doing. And thank you so much for sharing your story. How can people connect with you?
you can connect with me by going to my site, shyneproductions.info. That's shyneproductions.info. And Shyne is spelled SHYNE productions.info. Or you can actually email me at shine.speaklife. And Shyne is spelled the right way, SHINE .speaklife@gmail.com. I am definitely excited because I would like to announce that my Sister's Keeper is coming back September the 17th. It was official today.
All righty.
Yay!
It will be at the Hilton Gardens. I'm excited,
What
and this
city?
is
Because
No Woman Left
people watching
Behind.
you from everywhere. So what city? Tell them where you're going to be.
And No Woman Left Behind. And I'm telling you, it is going to be powerful because as God gave us the scarf, he got something else in store for you. I promise.
So
Carla,
that's going to be at the Hilton
what
Gardens in West
can
Palm Beach.
Yes.
Carla, what can individuals do to get unstuck? Something practical that they can do just to get up.
Okay. I would say when you open your eyes in the morning, it is my ritual. God, I thank you first. But also, when you get up in the morning and you have a moment and you have a thought, just a thought, write it down. I wrote down this. Ultimate Faith was not a book. It was just thoughts. I wrote down every morning. I woke up and I wrote little messages down. Then I was at work and I began to get my tablet and write, and it kept going. It kept going, and it freed me. It was basically my diary, and I didn't know it. And and it's just write your thoughts down, because if you can see what you're feeling, then you can actually say, okay, am I really feeling this? And then if you have someone that's in your home that you trust, or a sister that you know, a friend, and you can trust with your words, they can help you navigate. I promise you, my sisters helped me navigate. They kept me covered. They kept me going. And that was long before I am my sister's keeper. They were covering me. And this is a simple thing. You get up in the morning. Okay, God, I'm up. Good morning, good morning, my morning. I said that before morning even came. Before joy came. Good morning, my morning, because I was declaring it. Good morning, my morning, because I knew it was going to come. And I promise you, I just thought about it just now. Good morning, my morning. I would say that as my declaration that it's going to come.
Yeah, writing is so therapeutic in so many different ways and levels that you can't comprehend the things that come out of you when you take that pen and put it to a tablet. It is where books are births. A lot of books are written out of pain. All of my books are written out of pain and heartache and disappointments. So when you do that, it allows you to pull back the layers of what has happened, what has transpired, because you can't always speak it out, but you can write it out.
Yes.
So it is very therapeutic to write, regardless of what dispensation or what place you find yourself in life. Start to write it out so that you can speak it out, because our demons are our own inner boogeymen. Those things that are inside, those thoughts that we create and believe about ourselves and believe about our situations. So if we can get it out of our head and release ourselves, it creates a sense of freedom for us to cause that shift so that we can get up out of that bed. I know it was hard for me, going through a divorce, going through domestic violence, and getting out of bed. I had accountability partners, like you said, people that said, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm just laying here." And they're like, "Why? Get up." There's so much more to do. So thank you so much for sharing that. Do you have any closing remarks or any information that you could give to the audience where they can stay connected with you and read your books, utilize that, find a way to connect with you until they have that shift created in their mind and their spirits?
Absolutely. I would say, for all purposes, definitely speak to someone. I'm going to tell you, talk to someone. It's important. But I am also going to say, in the light of all that's going on and loss of children to domestic violence or any form of, killings, I lost my stepson to murder. And I must tell you, it was my heart that went out, not just to me, but I prayed for his mother, his actual mother, because I was his mother, but she birthed him. And if we learn that a mother is nothing like losing your child. When you lose your child, it's a whole nother thing. And if we can actually learn to be sensitive in that area, because right now there are some mothers that are really hurting, and I can't tell you, I didn't birth the child, but I birthed the child. And I promise you, it is so important to keep them covered I would say definitely to keep connected. Just Carla is coming out. Just Carla book is just about
Oh, that's going to be amazing because you're amazing. So I can't wait to see what you unravel in this book. That's Carla.
Just Carla
That's
is just
a good movie, by the way.
Yeah, does it?
And I say this because I'm not a titled person, but I must say, it's nothing against that. It's just that God hadn't allowed me to get to that level. Yes, I have gone to school and I've done different things, but just Carla is just being me and just telling you how, to navigate and how to do things. And I promise you, if you just be you, you'll see so many things, so many amazing things. And just like I said, write. Like you said, if you write little things, it comes out so much, so many things that you never even thought of. I keep pen and paper in the bed. I'm always writing little notes. There's a purpose. There's a purpose for everything. So if you want to get in touch with me, definitely shyneproductions.info, SHYNE productions.info. If you go on there, you can subscribe. My book, Ultimate Faith, it should be still on Amazon, but if it's not, let me know. But Just Carla is basically a backup to what's been going on with Carla since Ultimate Faith. And Ultimate Faith is always in work. It is not that you have it, but you're striving to get it. God bless.
Thank you so much for that. And it is, you're a powerful individual, and I'm so sorry you had to go through so much brokenness. But had you not been broken, we wouldn't be able to have all of this life oozing out of you that act as a jump start, one of those cables to initiate and activate other individuals' lives, rather it be women or men. So, I thank you for having the courage to stand and also trust in God with what he gave you, even though the burden was great.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Wow.
God bless.
Well, I have to say this. I am a very fortunate man. I have the privilege of being between two powerful women who turn their pain into power, powerful women who have demonstrated your ability to not only be resilient, but never lost the art of reaching back. It is for that reason, Dr. Val, when I think about you and all that you've done, you had to write your books, because to keep that inside of you would have robbed the world and everyone of not only your experience, but your journey.
Yes.
And inside of that, you took it and you didn't just allow it to be about you. You developed the Soul of the Woman Foundation. The whole Soul of a Woman Foundation is birthed out of the pain that you've gone through and your recognition of that every woman needs to be heard, needs to be lifted, needs that place of refuge. And so I'm happy because the fact there seems to be something that women possess that I wish more of us men possess. And that's the willingness to be transparent, to be vulnerable, and the willingness to turn their pain into power. And I'm talking about power that lifts, not power that pushes down. And that's why I think there's been the inverted thing. I look at you, Carla, inside of what you've done and all the things you've gone through. And it's interesting to you because all you know is that God is elevating you, and you don't want a title. You don't feel comfortable with a title, but he keeps lifting you up. But you continue to do the exact same thing as I see with Dr. Val. You tend to take your pain and it turns into an opportunity to give. One thing you didn't talk about was the whole widow circle, the widow thing. You are a young widow. You were a young widow when it happened, and yet it's still, you reach out to other widows, regardless of their age. You have this knack of just having to give to people. I mean, to be a young woman, I find it very interesting because the younger generation doesn't seem to want to hang around and take time with the older generation. No. And yet it's still, there you were, Mother's Day, going and finding people, making sure that they had flowers and making sure that you loved on people, folks that had been in their house with nobody to love, people who had recently lost husband and loved one. And I remember when you told me about it, I got to stop. I got to get these roses. I got to get all these things. For what? I just got to deliver them to people. I'm thinking, okay. And each time you did so, there was a testimony behind it.
Thank you, Jesus.
These are the type things that when we look at it, that life is given. You talk about life speakers, that's life being personified. And I stand as a very fortunate man as I stand and sit between both of you. And I salute you both because of the fact you are the change that we need to see. You are what I call real life therapy, your therapy in motion, because you've learned the art of giving. You've learned the art of giving back and knowing how to go from morning to morning. And you brought joy to others' lives. So I salute you both. Thank you so
That is
much.
powerful. Well, we appreciate this hour that we've spent. And Dr. J, you're magnificent in your own right. This is my bestie, Carla. Yeah, he's actually the male version of us, talking about
Yeah,
the
she says
female
the same
energy.
thing.
He is the male version of who we are. And
Yes.
I count it an honor to have him as my co-host every week. He brings out the best in me and all of our guests that
Likewise.
happen to join us and things. So I salute you and honor you, Dr. J, for the
Yes.
work that you
Likewise.
continue to do in the community. And
Yeah.
and the fact that you have a heart for women that victims of domestic violence, it is just, it is just touching to me that you have the compassion and the ability to love through that to help men be better versions of themselves and not do
Absolutely.
those things that they do. So I thank you for your empowerment, and people can reach out to you, www.jrthickblend.com. I will always go so quick and I always have so much going on, but thank God the word went forth. Thank God the message went through. And I want to
Yeah.
encourage everyone to subscribe to Hot Topics from the Soul on YouTube, Hot Topics from the Soul on YouTube, and visit my website, www.fromthesoulofAwoman.com. And Carla, if you can give your website again where they can connect with you, that would be powerful beyond measure. As Marius and
www.
Williamson would say, our deepest fear is that we're not inadequate, but that we're more powerful beyond measure. And you have certainly shined your light on us today.
Thank you so much. That's www.shyneproductions.info, and that's Shyne, SHYNE productions.info.
Thank you.
Thank
God
you so
bless
much.
you.
God
Good
bless.
night. We're here because you're here. If this show has been a blessing, please pass it on, because I'm sure you will come across someone, if not yourself, that will want to hear the message that this young lady brought to us tonight. Thank you so much, Carla Saunders. Good night and God bless.
Thank you.
Like and share.